Welcome to Beyond the Brink, the show the show that explores global events that are pushing people to their limits and driving them to the brink of change. Hi, I'm your host, Melissa. My beautiful co-host, Christy, couldn't be here today, and she'll be back tomorrow. I'm joined today by my co-host, Simon Says Crypto, filling in for Christy. How you doing, Simon?
Doing well, doing well. Glad to be here as always.
If you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, would you please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel? And for those that joining us on X Spaces, please share our space out right now so that we can get more people in here. And you can catch up on all of our previous episodes by visiting our website at vitabroadcastnetwork.com, or you can search us out on your favorite podcast platform by searching the handle at Vita Broadcast. Well, today, Simon, we have a special guest, and his name is Mr. Man. Mr. Man is a dynamic personality that's within the XRP community, who's an experienced professional overseer of technical records and audits within the charter air paramedic industry, and it contributes to his profound understanding of compliance and the need for adhering to regulatory standards. Beyond his corporate endeavors, Mr. Man also proudly dons a label of Habitual dot connector in the financial sector, and it showcases his prowess in establishing those meaningful connections and networks. He's also a seasoned real estate expert, and right now he's on a mission to scale to new heights with that and bring his wealth of knowledge to elevate that industry as well. What sets Mr. Man apart is not just his professional acumen, but he's also has a unique approach to life. He's known for his distinctive style, and he presents himself as a grown-ass man in a Spider-Man mask that symbolizes his blend of maturity and playfulness. His mantra, I'm not rich, I'm wealthy, encapsulates a compelling narrative portraying his journey as a captivating rags to wealth story. So get ready to dive into Mr. Man's fascinating world, where a deep well of expertise intersects with a desire to educate others on the future of finance. Mr. Man, welcome to Beyond the Brink. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to see you guys.
Yeah, welcome. Glad you're here. Heck, I'm glad I'm here, man. That is a long list of beautiful skill set that you have, my friend. That is epic. That is epic. Awesome.
You know what it is? She just made me look good. I don't like. I'm no professional. When
Man,
like that, it makes you look good.
Not true. Yes. No, you are a fun, playful character within the XRP community, and it's a fun thing to see somebody in a grown ass man in a Spider-Man mask teaching the masses about crypto and the things that are going on. So it's very fun. I'm in the middle of trying to start the spaces here, so bear with me and join us here. And once I get that rolling.
It's funny. One of the things that somebody had said to me when I first jumped into crypto and started to learn things and post, somebody had said, typically I would not listen to some delusional person in a Spider-Man mask, but your information and in crypto, it's allowed.
Right?
Anything goes in crypto land, man. It really does.
I think we're good. I think we're live on Spaces now, so
all right,
that'll work. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Man. Kind of what your background is. I kind of touched on it lightly. But I kind of want to know a little bit more about you, and then also kind of move on into what pushed you to want to become an educator in this space. What pushed you to the brink?
Absolutely. So for myself, I was born and raised in Toronto, And from Toronto, I had moved up to Barrie, where I spent most of my adolescent and younger adult years. And I was an EA, an educational assistant. I worked in the school board with individuals on the spectrum, autism spectrum. I've also worked with individuals with dual diagnosis, FAS, FAE. So I come from a people person background, people first background, essentially, where you put your life on pause and focus on their inabilities and help them in whatever shaped way you can. So it got to the point where I didn't know myself because I spent so much time helping others out, didn't know who I am, what I wanted, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, nothing.
Right.
So I had asked one of my friends who worked with me in the school board, do you have any friends out west? And out west is the oil fields. I'm sure it is in the US too, right? Texas and whatnot. So he had connected with one of his buddies. I connected with that same buddy a couple of days later, and literally end of the month, I was gone. I packed up everything in my car, moved out west, and I was living out there, and I became a gypsy essentially because I had a set home, but I lived nowhere and everywhere at the same time. Cleared all my debt, came back. Actually, while I was out there, cleared all my debt. And then one of my friends was suggesting, why don't you go to school? Why don't you go to school? I'm like, I'm not going to school. Like, I'm too old for that. And then it got to the point where I was like, well, I don't want to do this anymore. I was 30 something years old in the oil field, turning wrenches, trying to figure my life out and what I want to do. And I went on one website and did their aptitude test to see what could be good for me. And lo and behold, they're like, you can be an educational assistant and a youth worker. And I'm like, I just left that industry. I'm not going back into that. So legitimately, my strategy was I just read down the list of what they have. And the biggest industry they had there was aviation. I knew nothing about aviation. So I'm like, I'm going to do that. And I took it on head first, and I graduated with honors. I was on the dean's list every semester from something I had no idea about. But my motivation was I either do this and put my all into this, or I end up back in my old life where I had no direction in what I was going to do.
Yeah. Well, so how long were you in that position in the aviation? And what did you actually do there?
So with aviation, while I was in school still, my last year of school, so every year we were offered a co-op, and my second co-op was working with Orange Air Ambulance here in Ontario, and that air ambulance extends into Manitoba as well. So I had an idea and understanding of what air ambulance was like at that point from a government standpoint. So when I saw my last co-op come up, and that was with the company that I want to say I work for now, but I don't. I retired just last week. I had worked with them for my last co-op, and then while with them, they had created this position for me, specifically for me, because they liked what I could do. They liked my Excel skills. They liked the way I conceptualize and perceive things. I'm an Excel wizard, just so you guys need know. And they created this position for me. So quality assurance and technical records. Technical records is the fact that I look after all the aircraft in regards to maintenance and anything that happens to these aircraft. So if someone changes the battery, if someone changes a fuel control unit, if someone does any type of work or anything that happens, I look after all of that. I manage the software behind everything to keep the entire maintenance schedule that we're authorized for from our regulatory body, Transport Canada, in adherence to the CARS framework. CARS is Canadian Aviation Regulations, and I make sure that we adhere to that. So lateral movement from aviation regulations to monetary standpoint, complete different monsters, but regulations is regulations. If you can understand how to regulate and adhere to a regulatory body, because that's what I do, I understand looking at these companies who's adhering to a regulatory body at that point. It's my bread and butter. I do this all day.
So you understand, you have a profound knowledge, really, when you're looking at some of these documents, what they mean, or perhaps what they don't mean. Because a lot of people jump to conclusions when they see some documents. They think they might mean something different than they actually do. you're kind of understanding what it means, and then not only that, maybe how long it would actually take for something to come into fruition from the time that these documents start rolling out, right? I would think. I'm speculating here, but
From the document rollout, a lot of the videos and timelines that I've seen in terms of implementation from the first phase in is usually 12 to 18 months after the fact. So tomorrow, January 8th, there is something rolling in here, the Financial Services and Market Act 2023 in the UK, and that's being implemented tomorrow. But there's still that phase in period before that.
Right. Yeah, they got to
before
work.
they
They got to
finally
work
get-
it all in.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just a go ahead, have at it and we'll see how it goes. Here it is on this date, we're gonna implement it. Now we gotta take out all the wrinkles and plan it all out so it's implemented properly. So it's usually a 12 to 18 month period or phase in, if you will.
so let me ask you this. One of the things that really resonated with me when I came across your channel, first of all, you seem like a very down to earth, genuine person who really wants to help educate others in this incredible transformation that we're going through at the moment. And I also realized that you were someone else that was really getting kind of going down the off the beaten path and finding some of the conferences and summits and private meeting recordings that most of the public don't ever come across. And I found that fascinating just because number one, a lot of it is boring. When people listen to it, they can't even stand to listen to it at all because it's like, oh my gosh. But it's just, to me, I don't have the knowledge that you have when I'm reading some of the documents. But I definitely am smart enough to understand how important what I'm listening to and watching. So when I found your channel, I was so excited to have somebody that actually does recognize that. I'm curious how you go about finding these conferences and summits. Are you stumbling upon it, or are you intentionally finding them because you know these bodies exist already?
That's a good question. Just to go back to what you said before in terms of watching these boring things, a lot of them are like pretty boring and mind numbing. But then when you find that little piece of like that little gem, it honestly feels like a basketball game or a hockey game. So I'm sitting there like reading and listening, and then it becomes, no, he didn't just say that. He didn't just say that. That can't.
Yeah.
Everybody else is cheering with me, but nobody else understands it. They're like,
Oh, you're like, guys,
what's wrong
no
with
one
you?
knows. You're like, no one knows what I just found here.
Yeah.
You realize what I just found.
And then I show it to them, and they're like, "Yes, so what?" I'm like, "Really? You don't understand?"
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's it. It's like that. It's like you don't get this. Okay, you will.
Yeah.
Though. I have faith in you. You're gonna have this in 2 years. I promise. Continue.
So-
Didn't mean to interrupt.
Just to, I guess, hit back on the main question there, how do I get a lot of these videos? I started off with the regulatory bodies itself. I had to learn who they were, so I spent a lot of time learning about who they were, and I honestly attribute this to my schooling and education. I know schools and indoctrinating things, but it taught me how to study and study effectively, and always go back to the regulating bodies first. Who are the regulating bodies and how do they work? How do they operate? What's their structure? And then once I had the regulating bodies and learned a bit about who they are, I just started going down the hole. They would mention a name. Okay, who's this name? Look into them. They say another name. Okay, go over that way again. They say they adhere to this and that and this and that. I'm going to check you out. I'm going to hit you up there. And then it got to the point where my algorithm became just on par. And now I find things that are like, I don't know, it's like 2 years old. It's like 5 views on it that have like the biggest nuggets ever. And it's like, how does nobody not know about, how do people not know about this?
You posted something the other day, and I said, I knew you'd be following that channel that has like, hardly any views and like just nuggets and gems of information. Wow. So fun though. So since you start to look up a name, and I do that too, particularly even if I'm looking at a news article, I find that that when they say news unlocks the map, right? It really does, because when you come across a news article, they'll talk about certain things that doesn't sound quite right, but they'll have terms in there or people's names. And so I don't necessarily read the article.
Mhm.
I look at it for the names and the
Mhm.
companies that they're mentioning
Mm.
or dates. And every time that I do that and I cut, paste, and search it in there, I find something else. And my thing is that a lot of the stuff I find, I'm like, I know this is relevant, but I don't know where it fits into the overall picture, you
Mhm.
know. And so you were saying the other day, you kind of started having like building your own timeline of based on the connections that you've come across. One thing I wanted to ask you is, are you familiar with Citizen of the Future and the XX like 1133? You know, they created the money map. Um,
Yes.
have you seen that? Are you
Yeah.
familiar with those guys?
I'm very familiar with XX.
Oh shoot, let's go.
He's actually posted a few of the stuff that I have or posted it. And Citizen of the Future, we actually chat every now and again. I think I was in a couple groups with him as well, like
Love
just in
him.
the Twitter chat spots there. I'm appreciative to know individuals such as like yourselves and them too, because they each like you guys y'all dig deep, man, and I appreciate
They
that.
do. Dude, they
The amount of
do. They
time, well,
do.
I mean, you do too. That this is the thing, that a lot of people may not understand the amount of time that goes into doing this. Just even researching. I'm on the end of researching it myself, right? But coming up with kind of like putting it all together in a cohesive way that is makes it understandable to the masses, it's a very difficult thing to do.
Mhm.
And kudos to all of you that spend your time and effort giving your time and energy to the public
Yes.
to try and help encourage them to learn this, because while while this is not happening overnight. There is still time for people to kind of come up to par to speed on this. Um, it is happening kind of quicker than we really realize. And if people could just spend some hours devoting looking into the things that you're researching, or Citizen of the Future, or watch Vita broadcasts and any of these channels, and kind of educate yourself, you have the opportunity of a lifetime right now, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
Mhm.
So,
Oh yeah.
I couldn't
Oh
agree
yeah.
more with that statement.
I mean,
Yeah, that,
we spend a lot of time watching television. I love a good movie. I love music. But over the last probably 6 or 7 years, I've kind of directed my attention away from those things, and I'm spending my time um, researching these types of things. And it's time you can't get back. That's the thing. um,
Absolutely.
Time is our most valuable asset that we have. And
mhm.
so I'm trying my best to learn. And so, like I said, I'm so excited to have you here. So you have your list, or your timeline.
Yes.
Did you want to go into that yet, or
Ab- Absolutely. Let's do that. Let's do that. And like he
all right.
was talking about TV, a lot of people spend time on TV. I don't watch TV. I watch movies with a purpose now. Like when Leave the World Behind came out, I was like, I need to watch this and take notes. I need to take some notes. I know there's some real gems in this movie.
Wait a minute. So I have not seen it yet, and I'm going to tell you why. Because somebody said they watched it, and apparently there is several tracks that are playing simultaneously that you don't know. And
Okay.
it's got like bad juju or something, and like there's some kind of hidden messages. And of course I'm like, all right, we're just so old. We're or like back in the 50s where they're like, if you play the record backwards, it gives a bad, message. But there is so much hidden messages within our media, within our movies,
Yeah,
within our music. And anyway, someone said, and I haven't verified it, so however, I'm like, well, I can't really watch it with the sound off, but I do want to watch it. What was your take on it? Did you
Oh,
Go ahead. Give your stuff.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you want to ruin it for me, man. I mean, you might want to just say, you might just want to go check it out. I mean, because I was definitely at first, man, I was like, I don't know if I want to watch this. Like, it's like I've already had like multiple like movies and that I've watched, and yeah, what does this say? I've done the same thing. There's a group that I occasionally will visit on a Thursday night, and we talk about those types of things, the symbolism and all that. This right there in front of our faces and all that jazz. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to go down that road today. But so, anyways, me and Mrs. Crypto Says, we sat down, we watched it. I made my popcorn, right, and I'm watching, and I'm just like, oh, did you see that? Did you see that? We weren't even really paying attention to the storyline. We were just like, oh, did you see that? You see this? You see
Mm-hmm.
that? What does that mean? What's up with all the white cars? What? Well, I mean, where's the gray car? Why can't the gray car come out, or the blue one? Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was so many things there that we were trying to take for mental notes of. But yeah, that was cool.
Yeah,
definitely want to check that out.
I definitely recommend this movie just to, I want to say, enhance your future outlook, essentially. But it's totally up to you what you want to do with that, because we're all going to have our own different perceptions on the movie. To me, it was definitely telling direction of where we could be headed in, especially since 2 years ago there was that beer flu, if you will, that happened there, where people were forced to get certain things, and it kind of plays along that line, especially because of who had produced that movie as well. Coincidence.
Yeah, the executive producers.
And as I'm learning, nothing's a coincidence. But let me just segue back to the road.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down that road.
Yeah, let's not today, at least.
Yeah. So how do I share this?
You want me to share it? All right.
Yeah. So here we have, this is my roadmap based off of this is my timeline of I guess instances to happen, and based off of my research that I have done here. So in 2023, ISO, all banks had to now convert to ISO. Whether they're all using it right now or not, it's been implemented. And like I was saying, there's that 12 to 18 month phase-in period. So they have until 2025 before ISO must be live for all banks and FIs being financial institutions. So we have that rolling phase-in period there.
Can I stop you?
Sure.
So can you define ISO 2022 and the importance of it? Can you just touch on that real quick? Do you mind?
For sure.
Tell people what it is.
ISO comes from the International Standards Organization, which is what ISO is, and 20022 is the standard to offer interoperability, essentially what it is. Because right now we have software here, software there, that bank uses software, Aviation uses software, and they're all their own individual silos. So my program can speak with my financial companies, the financial part of our company's software, to state that we've performed and executed this amount of maintenance work, and it costs, for instance, this amount here. That doesn't feed into them. So we have to get that information, pass it on to them, and then manually enter everything again. So now that we have an interoperable platform, everything will connect now, as long as the APIs can connect into that other platform itself now. So now we can pull KPIs for everything, KPIs, key performance index, and you can see beautiful dashboards and see how this is working with this and how this plays in with that. And interoperability can mean so many things to different people, because it's like a blanket statement.
Well, the other thing too, isn't it, that the ISO 2022 standard, and they can hold more information than traditional the traditional rails. Well, I don't even know if I'm using the right terminology, But the
Mhm.
traditional way that we do things now, it's very limited in the characters and things that they can, if they're, say if it's a payment, that you're transferring to someone, this is going to allow for more characters,
That's
and
correct.
more information,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Which then allows us to move into the future, with these other technologies, with how you're saying that, just call them APIs,
Yeah.
that could be, that will work with them, right? I think I said that right. I was trying
Yeah,
to do it.
just to add on a bit more to that, yeah, the old data system you were talking about, known as MT at that point, or the coding was MT, so it's just data. You have a certain amount of characters that could be used, and that got sent with the message, and it was legitimately just a message being sent from one end to the next. But now we're moving into a rich data world, if you will, where it's not just information, it's rich data with a lot more lines and coding in that gets transferred from one from something to the next thing, and that value moves with it at that point. It's not just something happened here, and when that something finally arrives there, then there's value. It's something's happening here, that something's moving with value along that value chain itself, and then that arrives at the end point essentially with that rich data, which is known as the MX data.
Which also cuts out in the intermediaries in another way, right? And then can you just, before we move on, I'm sorry, but this is kind of a thing that I think a lot of people get confused on too. A lot of people, they say that the ISO 2022 coins or tokens that are, they call them that. What are your thoughts on that? Because there's a lot of people that are saying there's no such thing as an ISO 2022 coin, compliant coin, but really, I don't know. See what you say.
Essentially, it's the governing body that looks after that, or the company that looks after that coin itself, which is the one who adheres to that international standard. The coin can't, the company can, but the coin being the offering under that company is, I guess, compliant with that in terms of it being interoperable software itself.
Right. So it's really going to be like as we get farther down the line where things are really starting to open up and be turned on, the ones that are adhering to these standards, and this is an international standard, right? This ISO 2022, that's another important thing. It's an international standard. So you want them to be compliant with this if you expect them to participate worldwide on this level, right? Am I right? Or no?
No, that's correct.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done interrupting you for a half a second.
No worries. No worries.
I got the timer on.
Have you heard of, by chance, have you heard of the was it the RMG, the managing group that governs ISO 20022?
No.
I looked into that a long time ago, but honestly, I know that I read up on it and I knew, but that was so long ago that I couldn't educate you on it.
Okay, just Ripple's one of the governing management team or governing management entities as part of the ISO 20022.
Yes.
How coincidental is that?
Big time.
It's not.
Yeah, really.
So it's not, man.
There's a lot of coincidences going on lately, guys.
So just going on, 2024, we have quantum cryptography computing standards coming out in the US. I'll pull that up here. My other screen had just shut off. I don't know what happened to it. There we go. I can't see it. There we go. Allow it. And it's opening up on my other screen.
There we go.
There we go. So here we go. Financial institutions, and I can't see it again. I keep shutting off, on and off intermittently. I'm not sure why. And quantum computing and cyber compliance timeline. And down here, they offer the timeline right here.
Oh, wow.
Into the quantum computing, yeah. And one of the things there, the second last one.
If you can drop that link, I can share it with our listeners. If you can drop it in the chat. If you can't do it now, I can always do it after this is over. I'll add it for everybody.
I'll drop that right now. So essentially, the main one that I'm looking at is the one for the second last one, which is right here. If you can see that, 2024, and that's the projected That is the projected NIST standards. NIST stands for National Institute of Standards and Technology. And in that standard, one of the companies that adhere to this standard for quantum cryptography is Ripple, and specifically under that is XRP.
Wow.
So
It's so big. It's so big.
This is, yeah, I'm trying to pull that up quickly while we chat here. So
that's good.
See if I seamlessly do this.
Are you you're trying to pull up what, the NIST?
Yeah.
Oh, I just pulled it up.
There we go.
There you go. He's got it.
Yeah, fantastic.
He's got it.
On the NIST website here, standards, a National Institute of Standards and Technology. Right at the top there, you just type in Ripple.
Oh, I'm
and here you are right there, the glossary. And there's XRP right there. It shows as a governing, like they adhere to standards already. So I'm waiting for this cryptographic standard by NIST to come out. And I'm not too sure how it's going to manifest itself for Ripple and XRP, but there they are, as you can clearly see.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I just clicked on that glossary and clicked on the show source in the NIST IR 8202 blockchain technology overview. And see, this is where if you click that. If you click into that and open that up, that's where I would start researching who Dylan Yaga and Peter Mell and Nick Roby and Karen Scarfone. I would like research who these people are, Yeah, click that right there.
It'd be interesting, just to cut in a little bit here. It'd be interesting if you took those names and you went over to follow the money crypto map.
Yeah.
And type in those names. Oh, you know what I'm saying? And just to see if you can get a quick bio from them, and then see who they're all connected right there. You'd be like, yep. And that one went away, but that company bought that company, and you know what I mean? That would be
the first thing. Karen Scarfone. I just did search for her, and she comes up Scarfone Cybersecurity. She's the principal consultant for Scarfone Cybersecurity in Clinton, Virginia. So, I mean, I don't know. I kind of look to see what kind of people, and it looks like you do that same thing, which I think is awesome. Yeah, good find on this.
Do you mind if I just read a quick excerpt about the implications of this coming into play?
Yeah.
So the implications of NIST cryptography standards going live in 2024 are significant for data security in a post-quantum cryptography world. The new post-quantum cryptographic standard expected to be finalized in 2024 will introduce quantum-resistant cryptographic algorithms to protect against future quantum-based threats. This transition will require organizations to prepare for the adoption of the new standard by inventorying their systems, testing the new standard, as I had we're looking at right there, and creating a transition plan. The development of these standards is a proactive step to secure electronic information, as quantum computers powerful enough to break present-day encryption are anticipated to pose a serious threat in the future. The new standards will provide a robust variety of defense against potential quantum-based attacks, and their standardization will enable public and private organizations to begin implementing quantum-safe algorithms. The transition to post-quantum cryptography is a long-term, intensive community effort, and it is imperative for organizations, especially critical infrastructure. That's what I'm waiting for. There's been a few segments and conferences I've seen where Brad Garlinghouse had stated that we're not FMI yet, and FMI is financial market infrastructure, which is considered critical infrastructure. And the main word he uses is yet. I wish I had a video pulled up, but you can pull it up and you'll see exactly what I mean. We're not FMI yet. So
You said that's financial what? Financial
Financial market infrastructure,
market
FMI. Mm-hmm.
infrastructure. Nice. Nice.
It's very fascinating. See,
All right.
it's that boring conversation, and then you get the one gem. You're like, "Yet," he said, "Yet." Did you hear that? We got to get everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
God, that
exactly
2-hour
what I do.
conversation for yet.
Yeah, I show this stuff to my wife, and she's like, "Okay, well, what did you want me to hear?" I'm like, "All of it. What did you not? I
No,
need you to hear all of
whenever,
it."
whenever I
That's
come up with
relatable.
something, I get the you're doing good, baby. Doing good, baby.
My wife, she's a little bit more advanced in the doing a good job, baby.
Yeah,
Nice.
your wife has
she'll go.
changed the word.
She's like, so what does that mean? I'm like, okay, and I'll get that. I'll get a piece of paper out and I'll just draw. Okay, so if this goes here and they're talking to them, that means everything that they represent and all these people, that means we're now initiating connectivity, and that's huge. And allegedly they're going to use that, or that. So I'm putting my money into that, or that. It's like, oh, this is huge. I'm like, it's very huge. That's why I'm excited. And I'm like, trying to share it to you.
Do you want to continue sharing your screen?
No, you can take control again. That's all you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I thought you were still doing the timeline thing.
Oh, that's right. My apologies. So there we are, back at the timeline again. And in 2024, we also have the new UK polymer coming out in November. I'm going to jump back a bit prior to this, because I want to say it's in March, SEPA, a portion of SEPA, known as the one leg out treatment, is going live for money transmission, as well as in June 2024. I want to say June 30th, the UK is going live with a portion of MICA, the stablecoin portion of MICA, for the e-money tokens and asset reference tokens at that point. So e-money tokens are what we use right now, except they're just a number on your phone, if you will, inside your bank. So when you deposit your currency into the bank machine or go to the bank, then that number changes. That's what an e-token is. An asset reference token is a token now, or a coin, pegged to something else. Reference is the term used in prudential treatment by the BIS. So it's reference to gold, reference to oil, reference to a basket of commodities. So they are going to be going live in June 2024. And then end of the year, just after these banknotes are going live, coincidentally, in the UK at the same time, the next month, MICA is going live now. MICA is going live full force. So I'm excited for that.
So
that's awesome.
What we're just talking about the coins, the difference between,
that's awesome.
The way that it is now is just being represented by digits, right? But these new will be backed by something, right? If I'm understanding what you're saying.
That's correct.
So, and they're going live. And so I guess I'm not familiar with that. Is there a certain coins that are going to be that type of coin? Or do we know about this yet, or no?
What they are yet, I'm not 100% sure. It's not. Hold on, let me see if I can pull this up. June 2024. Yeah, I'm not it's not the pound sterling yet. It's not the EU's version of their digital currency yet. I'm not 100% sure what will be going live in terms of the asset reference tokens, but here we have that. So New Era crypto regulations, and New Era is also a project known as Project New Era, which includes Ripple, Finastra, DFMI, which is Digital Financial Market Infrastructures, clearing and settling, the what's it called, Euroclear, and a few other entities coming together to work on this coming into fruition here. So this just kind of goes over what those asset reference tokens are, not naming what those projects are.
Right.
Unfortunately, I'm sure the closer we get out or get the closer we get to this date, there'll be articles coming out and regulations around this coming out with who adheres to what and how that looks. And articles will be writing about that. So by then we'll have some more information on which projects those are.
Yeah. There's a lot of different influencers that are out there where you've heard where they say like XRP is going to be, tied pegged to gold, and this coin is going to be silver, and this one's going to be palladium, and I don't know if this has anything to do with that speculation or not, or if that's where that came from. I did speculate a while back about the SDR is the SDR basket being tied to not the way that it used to be, but going forward, there's going to be digital currencies in there that are going to be backed by something for real.
Yeah.
What I speculate, but I just wondered what you thought about that.
So I understand where that comes from and where that came from. That's right here. I'm just looking up all this information as we chat so I can keep it relevant so people have an idea of what we're talking about here. This is the BIS regular paid prudential treatment of crypto assets, came out in December 2022. And I believe it's SCO 60.11, 10 to 11 maybe. As we scroll down, not here. This portion talks about the different types of coins that can exist and how they will look in terms of stable coin and what's considered a stable coin or just pure crypto asset and what they need to be backed by in reference to. And as we go down to here, is it here? No. This one here. So crypto assets do not meet conditions set out in SEO above if first need to be redeemed or converted into traditional assets before they receive the same legal rights as direct ownership of the traditional asset itself. So you have to be able to transfer them one-to-one. Tether doesn't offer that because Tether itself as a company can withhold or negate transferring that Tether, whatever it is, into the US fiat dollar, which they're supposed to be able to do in adherence to this prudential treatment. So already I know they're like, okay, they don't adhere to anything. I'm not doing that. They're not clear. They're not transparent. They haven't done any audits to show anything. And then it goes on to say down here, crypto assets that have a stabilization mechanism will only meet classification condition 1 if they satisfy all of the following requirements, which is the crypto asset is designed to be redeemable for, I can't see it, my screen just blacked out, sorry. Okay, for a predefined amount of a reference asset or assets, for example, 1 USD and 1 ounce of gold, or cash equal to the current market value of the reference asset and USD and gold. So whatever that gold value is, you have to get that crypto asset should be that single crypto asset should be that same value, and when you change that into the US dollar, it should be worth that in US dollars. So you can convert all 3 of those things within and amongst each other. So I can see why people would think that's XRP. And when I first jumped into crypto and started learning outside of Bitcoin, that was one of my thoughts too. But the further I dove, my mind has changed in regards to how that'll look. Because I feel like gold will be a limiting factor in terms of what XRP's price and XLM price can be, because they are essentially a global stablecoin. I'm not sure if that's going to be the term or if that's the term used for it right now, but it's termless or nameless essentially, because they are acting as the global intermediary. I like to use this example because that's what's happening. So on the XRPL, they had just completed a phase 1 trial in China for the EHKD, the Hong Kong dollar, where they were using the XRPL and XRP. On the XRPL, they had tokenized real estate. And at the intermediary, it was XRP transferring those things. When I do this, that's just like a tokenized asset here being sold over here, or money being transferred here, or the value of gold we're irregardless on where it's minted on the XRPL, it's still, the value still has to go through the internet at that point,
Yep.
which is now using Interledger, which is a Ripple
Yep.
product as well. So whatever you send it on, it's going through those
Whatever.
rails, if you will.
Yep.
So now we're using the XRPL with XRP as the intermediary. Anything that's minted and being moved in terms of value, there's only 100 billion XRP. And I believe 80 billion is locked up in escrow. I'm not 100% sure what that is yet. I have my theories surrounding how the escrow will look later on, but that's just my theory. So that being said, when you have real estate being bought and sold and stocks being bought and sold and things being bought and sold, you only have 100 billion XRP at that point. So if you move anything that's over 100 billion already, you've already exceeded what the value of XRP is. So to move those things on the XRPL, even if it's just a fraction of a second, like the 3 seconds, that value has to go through XRP. Then it goes to the end person or entity or company or whatever it is, that wherever it's moving to from point A to point B. And this is the intermediary. So think of it on a global scale for real estate around the globe to be purchased and sold. Money transferring hands. You have medication being used. There's the COVID network, I believe, being minted on the XRPL as well. So you're going to have vaccines being tracked. Anything that can be minted, real world assets, our computers, our webcams, our cell phones, anything that can be minted on there, moving value, you're going to have this one intermediary right here at a higher value to be able to scale up and move all those things at one time. And I believe that to be called a global stable coin, but I have to wait for the term to come out because this is just my theory behind it based on
because
that I've read.
Hasn't the, I think it was the BIS mentioned XRP and XLM as being the stable coins? I've seen that of choice or the chosen ones. I've seen that in documents. We have a question from JRB. It says, how will decentralization identity come into play? After all, in a digital economy, who owns your digital identity? What ensures we don't become bearer bonds or a commodity? That's a good question. I don't know if you know anything.
That is a good question. And I believe the only thing that can ensure that our entities can't be bought and sold on a stock market, if you will, or traded, is regulations. It depends on how the regulation reads and then how people interpret it and loophole because anything can be loopholed, even in digital. Anything can be loopholed, and then that's where AI comes in to be the mind and to collaborate with the oracles, if you will. But I mean, that's we'll have to wait and see how it plays out, because what I keep hearing is that your entity or your sovereign entity will exist and reside just on your phone. But again, we'll have to wait and see where regulations lead.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm curious about that too, as I know what's it called, Global ID. There's a lot of different companies working through this, but I've never been able to really wrap my mind around it. It sounds good, and I get it, because what people need to understand is our information is already out there in many centralized locations anyway, for people to steal your identity, right? It's not as safe as what you think it is already. And so a digital solution to having your own digital identity is great. What I don't understand with this global ID thing, and then also don't forget, if you live in the United States, I don't know about Canada, but we have that new ID requirement by 2025. Everybody has to have the new digital ID, or the new, can't remember what they call it. The new ID, when you get your driver's license now, everyone will have to have the same type of equivalent to a passport. When you get a passport, you provide all this information to make sure that's you. I speculate that is us getting on board with the rest of the world when this global ID comes into play. I'm sure somehow it's going to get tied in. I just don't know how.
Yeah.
But somewhere your information is still going to be housed, right? I mean, with a digital ID.
I don't believe it's going to be housed in a centralized place. I want to believe that it's going to be kept within your own personal phone. Canada has rolled out one already with the blessing of the government, if you will. And I want to say I'm a trailblazer. I've downloaded, I've tried it, I've read through the documents already, and I see that they're in collaboration with DIA, DIIA, which is with Hyperledger. So that sent me over to Hyperledger. Read a bit more about that stuff as well, and I like what Hyperledger is like touting, what they're saying about decentralization. So that helped me feel comfortable and confident in it. I could care less that it's from the government. That's what kind of what kept me hesitant. But then when I found the names behind it, I was like, okay, let me give this a try because I know Hyperledger well, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was a guinea pig with the global ID when Uphold, when you had your Uphold account, I created it. They were partners in some way with global ID, and so I guess I was a test dummy with it, because they no longer use it to log into your Uphold account. But at the time, I thought it's really cool because it's at the ground floor of this global ID. And I had met somebody a couple of years ago at Texas Blockchain Council conference. There was a guy there from cybersecurity, and he was talking about global ID. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know who I was talking to. Right? This is the crypto world. You don't know who you're coming across. You don't really know who you're talking to when you're talking to them. But this guy was had something to do with global ID. And that was going to be he was adamant that was going to be the standard going forward in years to come. And then of course when I got the Uphold account, there it was. I kind of recognized the name, and it was pretty cool, you know. And ground floor, you got to pick any name you wanted. So I snagged my "World Be Free," you know, type thing. But I mean, I still to this day, I'm not savvy enough to really understand exactly what it all means when it comes to that digital security. EX on X says great information. Thanks so much for coming to the show, guys. JRB, Mr. Crypto Professor, we appreciate you. And those of you that are listening on Spaces or Facebook or YouTube, we love you. We appreciate you. If you please like, share, and subscribe. Share this out. We love you for it. Thank you.
All right. So just jumping back to the timeline here. I'm not sure if you can bring that up for me.
Yep.
So one of the things I had overshot was Embridge is going to be going live as well. Are you guys familiar with Project Embridge?
Yes, I've heard about it.
So we have Project Embridge put out by the HKMA, PBOC, I want to say SAMA, UAE, and Singapore. And what that is the, I want to say like the clearinghouse or like SWIFT essentially, but for the over in the East end now. So they have their own clearing, if you will, which connects to the other central banks, and this is their central hub, if you will, for clearing and settlement. I'm not sure how this is going to play in with the new development bank. There's no connections yet, but this is like the main hub at that point. I'll pull it up and show you.
It says Project Embridge experimenting with a multi-CBDC platform for cross-border payment.
Yeah.
Yep. That makes sense right there.
So with that happening, what they're rolling out with is just an MVP known as a minimum viable product. And so Project Embridge is a global central bank digital currency platform that is set to launch an MVP, minimum viable product, in 2024. It is a collaborative efforts of the BIS Innovation Hub for founding central banks and over 25 observing members from various countries and organizations, including central banks, commercial banks, and international institutions, such as the IMF and the World Bank. So it's not just in the East End there. The platform aims to support interoperability with participants' own systems through APIs, as we were talking about earlier, based on the global ISO 20022 standard, allowing for easy connection and integration into the ISO 200 compatible payment systems. The MVP launch will involve exploring several functionalities, including platform statistics, queue management, and alignment with CPMI frameworks. And CPMI is another one of those standard settings bodies, such as the BIS, BCBS, IMF, FSB, so on and so forth. The platform also emphasizes the use of technology solutions to support foreign exchange, liquidity, and anti-money laundering, combating the financing of terrorism. The MVP is a minimal viable version of the final product that will be delivered to the market. So this is just the first phase. From my recollection, there's either 3 or 4 phases. This is phase 1, and then we'll have that implementation phase, as we were talking about before, the 12 to 18 months till I get to the next phase, whatever that next phase is.
I just wanted to, before we move on, I know a lot of people that watch our show will know this, but there's a lot of newcomers who may not know what an API is. And basically, it's an application programming interface that's a way for 2 or more computer programs to communicate with each other. So it's a type of software interface. And so I guess when you understand that, and then you start talking about these governing bodies and this timeline of things, and they're testing all these things out, it's pretty significant, and it's not something that can happen overnight, right? We're not getting to the end of the road super quick, but we are far down the road already.
Yeah, API. Any traders out there, anybody in crypto, and you watch the screen for a minute and you see the red and greens going super fast, those are someone's trading bots that's connected to that exchange through an API. So their computer's talking to the exchange's computer, the exchange computer's talking to their computer. Yep.
It's pretty interesting.
So in September 2024, we have the global framework now for the EDTA, Electronic Trade Documents Act. In September last year, trade finance again, September 30th, we had the EDTA Act implemented. And the Electronic Trade Documents Act is strictly for, not strictly, but mainly for like the MLETR and shipping. It's for shipping. And so essentially, when most people think about shipping, it's just I ship this product, it ends up in its final destinations. But what actually happens, I'm shipping this product, I go to the post office and I now have an agreement, right? So myself and the end participant have an agreement, but now we're using other members in this value chain. So myself and the post office have an agreement. The post office sends it off into their truck to wherever it needs to go for processing. So now the post office and that processing place has an agreement. Then when it gets to the other end, whether it's going on an aircraft or a boat, now another agreement is established, and so on and so forth till it gets to the end. So now it's been written into law and slowly being implemented again. And 2024 is when it comes into effect. Is now it's all document, all electronic documentation. So now paper document is going to be written not out of law yet, because we are the transitionary generation is what we are. So we're holding both worlds, essentially, the old paper world and this new electronic world. So eventually this old paper world will die and we'll get that shift. But it's going to be a hard shift, not going to be a soft shift. It's not going to be a soft landing, as we're continuously told by, Jerome the homie, as my man Ted from Lift Capital states. As Janet Yellen, it's not going to be anything like that. It's going to be a hard thing, because in the aviation world, we're currently going through a transition as well. And we're going through several companies to see if we can find a new software that can keep track of all of our aircraft. And let me tell you, it's a scary thing, because if one thing gets out of line, that can ruin our adherence, and we can get our operating license withdrawn and pulled and cannot operate because something didn't transition properly. So you hold both products for years, and this new electronic one may not even be live I'm still trying to figure things out so that it operates the same as this one over here. And then finally, when we all feel comfortable, it's not just, okay, we're going to let it go slowly. It's gone. It's just gone. And then you're 100% on this. So before you even drop this thing out, you're playing with entities from here over to here, and then you're holding both of them at the same time to make sure
that's what I say. Like, at some point, the two become married, but right now, like, they're going to run parallel with one another, and then eventually they got to come together. And like you say, the one will drop away, but it's a scary thing, especially, I mean, we're talking about countries or just large corporations, even a small business. Transitioning to a new software is a scary thing. I mean, because you don't know if something's going to be missed, and there's always the people on the back end. I mean, I'm an accountant. I do we use a certain software, and every time they want us to upgrade to the next best thing, then they have a sales team that tells you it can do this, that, and the third. And then you start testing it out and you realize it really can't, but then they say they can build you something and all of these things. But once something goes away, you transition into the new thing and it didn't fully check all your boxes off, then you're kind of screwed. And so you definitely don't want to jump into something blindly. And I'm happy to know that we are handling this with care. As far as I can tell, it seems like it's being handled with care.
I'd like to bring light real quick to your example, Mr. Man. You know, the paper world, physical, right? Going full digital. Another example of that for my fellow cryptopians out there would be NFTs. Okay, NFTs start off like artwork. That's a great platform. I actually bumped into local artists here that are in the NFT space, but when they sell the artwork, the client receives the digital and the physical. And this for a time will be that until, we have the moment where the physical is no longer relevant. It is the digital that holds clout wherever it's at, because it can be backtracked, since it came into the digital world. But that's a great thing. But yeah, we're not. I don't see people just going, "Oh yeah, digital's fine." No, we're gonna. Are you sure it's good? Are you sure? Are you sure? I mean, the bag's heavy, but I can hold on for a little bit longer. I just need absolute positivity here. Yeah, we're gonna have. There's that rough transition. We're about to change our confidence, trust in things, and we have to relearn it, redefine it, and then learn how to sit in the brand new chair.
Yeah.
And I get that a lot of people right now want to be rich, is the term. They want to be rich. They want to go buy Lambos. They want to blow their money and end up in the same situation they were in. But this is such a delicate thing that takes time. And we've been given a blessing here. And I hope people see it as that, because I jumped in just before the court case dropped. Right, I caught in. I was like, "Oh shoot,
XRP
is $1. Let me get this. I've heard all about it." And then it just dropped. I'm like, "What the heck is going on?" And then it stayed down around that 50 cents Canadian. And I was like, "You know what? I don't understand this." And the more I learned about dollar cost averaging and then how to trade, I was like, "This is a blessing. I can buy even more for cheaper,
for less. You can get the same amount for less now. You can just double up. Bam! You bought it in $1. It's at 50 cents. You're like, half the price. Let's go."
Yep.
Yeah.
And
if it does, but he might be somebody interested in your bot, Simon.
Yeah, I'm actually right now. Yeah, you know what? I'll hook you up on that. Yeah, I'm doing some beta testing on just a trading bot. It's really it's meant for the blue collar individual, if you will, someone that doesn't have a lot of money that wants to get into crypto, and maybe they're already in. They just they got a little bit of XRP, but they want to kind of be diverse. But coming up with a couple $100 a month or a year is a challenge. So the developer of this trading bot, the auto crypto investor, he made it just for that small money, that where they can just put in the exchange, let the bot through API do trades all day in a conservative manner. Where on this next bull run, you could potentially 10x, 12x your funds there. And he's like, dude, so many people have a nice nest egg to maybe eventually get Lambo down the road, but more importantly, now you got a nest egg that you can use other vehicles to create some generational wealth. So yeah, I'll have to connect with you on that. I'd love to get some testing done. That'd be great. I'm always looking for beta testers.
I did want to ask a question on what you just covered, Mr. Mann, before we go forward. So that the thing that's going live, you said that had to do with the shipping.
Yes, the EDT, right? Electronic Trade Documents Act. So now it's just taking shipping documents and bills of lading and contracts, paper documents, and now eliminating them. So it's all only one source of truth now, which is electronic. Because if you are the end recipient of me shipping this letter to you, it has to go through that value chain. And that truth can change many times based on where it's going, what day it got shipped out, who it's going to, how it's being shipped, etc., and so forth. But if there's only one location of truth, and I send you that, I guess, PDF or the electronic document that cannot be changed, it's immutable on the blockchain, which XDC is deep in this with the ICC international chambers there, then it's just the one element of truth. There's no fabrication on paper, somebody else writing something else and changing anything at all.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
The reason I'm asking is my son is in logistics, I guess. And, over the years, there's been certain things that have been changed, that are being cleaned up. So you've got the trade documents. So all the documents are going to then be electronic. But to get to that point, there's a lot of other things that have to be cleaned up, right? I mean, this a couple of years ago, they were cleaning up if you go from China to the United States and whatever's on that ship, there's I just say groupings or baskets that something falls underneath, the certain goods that fall underneath that category. And those things had to be cleaned up. And I can imagine you'd want those types of things cleaned up before then you're doing this document thing. Like, you don't want to have to do things twice, right? Or move something from one thing to another or whatever. So I just, in this timeline of things, it's a lot of us in the crypto space, we're only thinking currency, or I can send you Bitcoin, or I can send you XRP or whatever. This is it's so much more, and you're talking about the shipping part, which is a huge part of our lives, and I literally hear nobody talking about what you just said.
It boggles my mind how big this is, and not many people care to focus on it. And this here will be a big part of the change that's taking place, because it involves more than just the EU. Like the Electronic Trade Document Act 2023 is an EU thing, which started off as MLETR, which, interesting story, was actually somebody, the person who created that name, MLETR, his girlfriend, or the person at the time he was dating, her name was Meliter. So he broke that down and copied that and just gave this thing that name, the MLETR. I heard that in one of the conferences. I'm like, that's interesting. But it starts off with the MLETR, and we already have the G7 signed up to utilize this, and that's going to go to the G20 inevitably. Once the G7's like, okay, let's do this to send.
Yeah, then it trickles down. Then it trickles down to the 20. Yep.
Exactly. And I want people to recognize how big this is, as opposed to, this crypto company made a partnership. Yeah, well, the price isn't moving. Price does not move by partnerships, because if they did, I'm talking about XRP specifically, that would make XRP a security, because then we are banking on partnerships from Ripple translating into price appreciation from XRP, as opposed to the supply and demand and the use case of XRP at that point. XRP is its own entity aside from Ripple. Ripple's a software company. XRP is a product. Two different things.
And
Right.
if Ripple went away, XRP would still exist,
It still
which
exists. Exactly.
isolates it again. It's another reason why it's not a security.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. There is a lot of people that think that certain news and partnerships, and I was one of them, to be honest with you. Initially, I understood they were separate, but I guess I didn't really understand they were separate because I too still thought, well, if now these partnerships, that's making it more valuable. No, it's not. They're not one and the same. They're two different things. And however, for those of you that are not quite into the crypto, looking into a company like Ripple or any of the companies that they're associating themselves with, and you want to invest your money in that way, it's probably a good idea to look into those things, if that's your fancy. But they are two separate things. So yeah, great point, Mr. Man.
I'd also like to kind of piggyback on what you're talking about, getting people to understand how big this is. and it's very big because this is global, and not a lot of us, and I am still one of them, and I find this out on the daily. I can't picture global. Okay, it escapes me at a level. It's just it's impossible for my mind to compute global on certain topics. But there are moments like with crypto. You brought up XDC and the ET. Oh, dang it! I was going to read it. The document that you were just talking about, the Electronic Trade Document Act, right? So that's going to change the whole global shipping industry, all of it, everything. At some level, there's going to be a change. Okay, so there's that part. Let's go back to your what you were talking about, Mr. Man. The thing that's the utility, the supply, right? With XRP, XDC also. So now you have these these regulations in place. Well, when a regulation gets put into place, now, hey, how do we utilize something to get done what needs done? Well, there's this XRP token that works very well with the software. Now we can use XRP to send what we need to send. Okay. This is where XRP comes into play. This is where the supply and demand comes into play. This is when all of a sudden, out of left field, because the powers that the financial institutions can't buy it anymore like they used to, a nice backdoor deal, if you will. They have to come to the main street to get it. That is when we would technically win, when we would see price action go exponential, is when they have to use the token or tokens that work best for those protocols, systems, etc. And that's what Mr. Man is really trying to give reference to, being the oh my gosh, I can't even say it, being like the stable coin, if you will, the go-between, the bridge. In one of your videos, Mr. Man, you said the it was good. Reserve currency. Okay, it is the one thing that everybody agrees to use on the system, and that's how we holders of those tokens will become rich, wealthy, etc. Price action, right?
They have regulatory clarity.
Right. It's the price doesn't move because things are getting implemented, but those that are in the know, like Mr. Man here, when he's getting he don't care about price right now. I mean, he does. He's like, I can get more, yay! But it's like, dude, they're putting this into play. There's no going back. These global entities, when they put something into place, it is in place. It's not a we're going back. It's a we're doing this. We're going to slowly move forward. Just like building. I'm from construction. We go one floor at a time. But before we even start building a building, there's probably at least 2 years of plans, minimum, of designing. Does this work? What does the county say? What does the state say? Are we still within the parameters that we got to be? That would be compliance, by the way. All these different companies are having to do those things. This is the same thing. If you ever hear anybody, whether they're a top tier individual speaking on the topic of cryptos that talks about the infrastructure, this what Mr. Mann is presenting tonight is exactly that. The infrastructure, the rules that we all will agree to follow in this protocol and system. So that's big. That's like that's really big. So partnerships are cool, but the regulation part and those being implemented is way more exciting, because for an investor, that literally says I'm on the right path. I'm here. I'm definitely going to win. And if I don't get to see all the fruit on the tree, I know my kids will or my grandkids will. It'll be solid. You know what I mean? So, anyways, I just wanted to. Thanks for letting me talk about that real quick.
That's the plan. Like my goal is, if I was to drop dead tomorrow or today after this interview, I know I'll set my family up. Like I don't want to, but should that happen, as long as they remember how to access the wallets I've set up and where they all are, I've done my job with my time here on Earth, you know. And I will be one happy man knowing that they will be secure in their future.
That's right. Amen to that. Amen to that. That's awesome.
So just jumping back here now, in 2024, we had gone over this quickly too. MiCA comes into play, and the implications of that are, so the markets and crypto asset regulations set to take effect in the EU 2024, just like how the ETDA did, as I previously gone over. And where EU goes, the rest, and the UK go, the rest of the world follows. So the regulatory framework, MiCA, will provide a long-awaited regulatory framework for crypto companies operating in the EU, which is a positive development for many crypto businesses. It'll require companies to ensure compliance with the law, leading to increased transparency and investor protection. The global impact, the successful implications or implementation of MiCA is expected to set an example for regulators worldwide. That includes the US, potentially leading to a more harmonized and less fragmented regulatory landscape for crypto and Web3 businesses globally. MiCA will introduce licensing requirements for crypto asset service providers, also known as VAS, leading to increased compliance costs. However, it may also expand to the market reach for Web3 companies, enabling them to offer services to a broader range of companies within the EU as well. And with Web3, that could also include the metaverse when that comes into play. So the regulation aims to enhance investor confidence through increased transparency and comprehensive investor protection measures, which could attract more individuals and institutions to engage with crypto assets and related services. Woo! Okay.
But you can't say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, that's what it's like reading these things sometimes. It's like, okay, get to the point. There we go. There's the point. That's what you're trying to say. Because some of these things are just long-winded, and regulations are, I want to say, meant to almost purposefully mentally exhaust you just reading that. And sometimes it takes me reading one sentence 3 or 4, maybe even 5 times just to make it make English sense to me.
I'm sure there's probably about 8.8 billion people on the planet that would wholeheartedly agree with you on that.
I mean, if I'm even listening to something, you know, I'll be doing other things because I'm a huge multitasking kind of person, and I'll like go, wait, what did they just say? And I'll try to rewind, you know, to the point and listen to it again. And sometimes I do. I have to listen to something like 10 times before I get it. And it's like, gosh, Melissa, like, why was that so hard to grasp? But sometimes these things, they're complicated. And then I'm trying to tie it together with other things and say, like, all right, is this significant information or isn't it? You know? So it's funny.
And in January next year, this one is a big one for me. Is where Basel III is now being implemented in China and the US. And in US is known as Basel III Endgame. I'm not sure if that name was chosen intentionally, but it's Endgame for the US. How coincidental. And what that means, let's jump into this here. So implementation status of Basel III and reforms. So what essentially it means now is that banks or FIs, financial institutions, are based on their own merit and will have to hold RWA risk-weighted assets based on the balance that they have within the bank. So if they say they have, I'm just going to use a round number, $100 million fiat cash, they have to have some, was it 72% of that amount in vault in something, some shape, way, or form, gold, oil, silver, whatever that is. They have to have some risk.
That's a 1-for-1, right?
Yeah. So now it can't just be, that South Park episode there where Stan and his father walk in to invest Stan's money, and they're like, "Hi, I want to invest this money," and the guy looks at him and he's like, "And it's gone." He's like, "What do you mean it's gone?" He's like, "It's gone." Stan's like, "What do you mean the money's gone? Can I get it back?" He's like, "Nope, it's gone." Just gone just like that, because banks only make money through loans. They make money through loans, and that's it. So the minute you give money, that money is gone to create interest for them to make money for that bank. If you're not giving them money, they're not making money. So that money's gone immediately. But that's changing now. And one of the most scummy things I've heard is Jamie Dimon had said, this isn't good for the American people because it's going to hurt the American people. And he's right. It will hurt them. But he's one of the scummy banks that do this with fractional reserve banking and does not want to have to hold anything. He'd rather just keep printing, these banks print as much money as they can so he can continue to capitalize on it. So he's right that it will hurt the American people and the rest of the world, but it's something we're gonna have to go through to get to our final destination in regards to making these banks truthful to what they say. If they have X amount in their reserves, they have X amount in their reserves. There's now audits to prove this. Daily audits, end of the day audits now, once digital currency comes into play, and then monthly audits and quarterly audits as well for transparency into that bank. And that's how it should have been. So I'm grateful that we're going back there.
Should have been that way all along, for sure. And we were just talking about this the other night with, about how when you put your money in, it might not be there when you go to grab it back out. There's so many different things. And one thing Ryan kind of got me on, and I'm like, ooh, I got to look this up because, we know that there's the risk that these bank failures can happen, and it's probable that many of them will fail. But he's like, when has it happened on such a catastrophic level where, people that they actually lost their money and weren't able to get anything back from it. And, I was looking at the numbers. I can't remember what the website is off the top of my head at the moment, but just how in the red they are. They don't have the money. They're so upside down. And then so if they all were to fail, boy, that would be terrible. And who gets left holding the bag is we do. Because if we're an unsecured depositor, we're down on the list of people that would get paid out. And so, I do think ultimately this is going to be a good thing for the people in the long run. But like you said, there is going to be some bad things that happen, and hopefully we're handling this as delicately as possible to have the least amount of damage to the public. That's my biggest concern. What do you think the banks are going to be in the future, Mr. Mann, in terms of, how are they going to make their money? Going to be on fees? I mean, they're not going to go away. Not all of them anyway. No. What do you see them doing?
So I was watching a bank merger symposium last year. And let me tell you, this was 8 hours long, okay? And what I was able to take away from it, what they're trying to do is stop bank mergers because these conglomerates are continuously growing. But regulation moves the slowest out of everything that happens. One of the videos I had posted was this individual, I don't remember his name, Asian guy, and he was saying when technology takes off, it goes up, and then it goes up again. So there's going to be that J curve when it goes up. So that being said, the banks are going to continuously be carnivorous, is the term I use, just the carnivores, just eating every bank that fails, every small regional bank that fails. They're going to take it so they can continuously grow. And it's going to get to a point where that bank will not have to be like a physical brick and mortar store anymore, because now we have embedded finances, and that's how banks are going to work. So essentially, for a company like Finastra has their liquidity coming from a bank somewhere, but that bank is now embedded into their software itself. So when Finastra uses their software, they're automatically connected to that bank or banks wherever they are, whoever they're partnered with. So the minute they start sending money to their partners and other banks or FIs or NGOs, whatever they are, whoever they send their money to, that's the software they're using is a bank automatically. It's embedded finance in the cloud. And that's how that works.
Interesting.
So banks will still be collecting from fees right now, for fees. But the way it's working right now is interesting, because if some banks and FIs have converted into using rich messaging already. So what they're doing is capitalizing on that value for themselves, because we don't necessarily know which banks have converted into ISO and using the MX rich data messaging services yet. So we're still paying the same fees for cross-border, I don't know, 7-8%, whatever that is. But for them to move that money is quick. So their fee to utilize the digital asset at that point is minuscule. So they're playing the game of float right there now. They get that big sum back. And they're going to keep playing that float until finally 2025, when ISO messaging is like, it's here.
Yeah.
It's here.
I
Nothing you can do about that.
was listening to some banking conference when they were piloting some of these technologies, and they were all saying, you definitely need to get up to speed. I mean, they gave them time to become ISO 2022 compliant, but they were all saying, like, you want to be able to do that sooner than later. You need to get in the game, and those that aren't trying to do it, they'll be assumed, they'll be done. But they were saying that they're not going to offer crypto services directly. They will be using third party, is the way I understood it.
Okay.
Not in-house. That it was going to be, and because why would you want the liability of that, right? Or have to have the manpower to have that entire department when you have these, like you're saying, the APIs, all these different things that connect and allow banks to like plug in, which is what I thought also Ripple, the beauty of what they were building, to be able to have a bank plug, like a plug and play type environment, or the ones that were still in the middle of being able to convert, they could still participate. Unless I misunderstood that, but that's what I have in my brain at this point when it comes to the banking. So where are we?
Did you want me to continue with the timeline still?
Yeah. Go ahead and continue with the timeline.
All right.
I'm spotting your new $10 bill there.
Yes. Yeah. One of them are out of order there. You'll notice 2025, 2026. Some people were like, "Oh my God, you got that out of order." And it's like, oh, that's the least of my worries. Like look at the timeline. Just look at the timeline.
He's lying. He's a liar. Yeah. Only a truther would put that in the correct order.
So we have the reevaluation coming up. So 2023 saw IOSCO and the CPMI dropping along with the BIS dropping the implementation of DeFi and crypto assets. And then 2025 is the reevaluation of that. And that I think is going to be huge in terms of potentially price appreciation at that point now, the reevaluation. And notice it aligns with Basel III as well for risk-weighted assets. So these things, I want to say, are strategic in terms of play. So when people say this was all meant to be earlier, I don't think so. I think they give themselves enough time so they can push things back if they need to. But I think the reevaluation is going to be huge in terms of potentially price appreciation at that point now, the reevaluation. And notice it aligns with Basel III as well for risk-weighted assets. So these things, I want to say, these was all meant to be earlier. I don't think so. I think they give themselves enough time so they can push things back if they need to. But the
Yeah.
big things typically stay within the same year itself because they have an end date or an end goal, sorry, not a date, end goal, that they can move things around, but the end goal is still the same. So
Yeah, I've always had 2025 in my mind whenever I think about when there'll be price appreciation eventually. For some reason, I've always had 2025 in my mind, and it's probably because I've read up on these things, which just tuck that in the back of my mind, right? Because I'm like, I don't know why I think that. I just have a gut feeling that 2025 is going to be at the time when we're going to actually see something significant anyway. But
Mhm.
I mean, with what you just said, that confirms it even more to me.
And
So,
then in 2025 also, that's when Canada and US relinquish coexistence. Initially, I thought that was coexistence for Swift. As I read further, it was just the releasing coexistence from certain coding, messaging coding itself. So Swift uses the standard PAX .008 messaging standard. Coincidentally enough, RippleNet uses the same language. Hypothetical, like how coincidental is that? With that coexistence being relinquished now, and in 2025 with the harmonization, I lost my train of thought.
I wasn't aware of that. You're saying the United States and Canada
Mhm.
are they're relinquishing a previous agreement on a previous standard agreement, right? A messaging
Yeah,
format,
Yeah.
or is that
correct.
my understanding? And
That's correct.
so then that is kind of in the timing of the ISO 2022
That's correct.
going live. Okay.
And
So
then as we move,
it's kind of forcing the hand also, because if you're terminating the agreement out of this, you better have one that is going to replace it, right?
exactly,
But now
exactly.
is what's replacing it is actually going to be more than US and Canada, right? This is a global standard, right?
Hmm.
I mean, can I just ask you one more thing? So is it
Hmm.
just the United States and Canada that have this messaging standard that they're using?
Everywhere in the world uses it because Swift is the central clearing place right now for cross border. So everybody has to be able to speak messaging terms with what
Okay.
Swift offers.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then 2028, like I'm sure there's 2026, 2026 there is. The new US $10 comes out. Ironically enough as well, the debt clock had put out I guess a comm, if you call that. I just follow these things because I find them interesting and intriguing. But they had put out a comm that had a $10, a gold $10 with the little US moniker of the gold for 2026. And then I had dropped this and I was like, no way. Maybe that has to do with what they're talking about. But then moving on in 2028, there's a few things that happens there. That's full adoption of Basel, Basel 3, the end game in US and Basel 3 in Canada. Also, the digital sterling comes out in the UK as a digital pound. Digital pound in the UK, digital sterling in the EU, I think it is, yeah. And then in 2028, also, the EU is to exit from their coexistence messaging services as well. So big things are happening. I'm not sure exactly what's going to be the catalyst to get things going. I had posted a video on my Twitter timeline that this individual in a payments conference was talking about what the US catalyst could look like to force the hand of the population, the you and me of the world, to accept these CBDCs. And what I'm hearing that the US CBDC initially won't be the standard CBDC structure. It won't be something, and the way I attribute it and picture it, we're all familiar with wrapped coins, right? Wrapped ETH, wrapped Bitcoin, wrapped whatever else, wrapped there. I picture the CBDC as a wrapped coin. You have the stable coin, which is pegged to real world assets itself, as we were discussing earlier, whether that's gold, the fiat currency right now, silver, oil, diamond, whatever it is. And the CBDC isn't backed by anything other than the faith and trust in the regulating bodies to state that, yes, we're giving our blessing to this thing here to say it's money. And now when you wrap that with this thing, now you have that thing moving on rails set up. And that's how we get the synthetic CBDC platform, which is what happened. I'm not sure if you guys are following, but out in 2021, Stellar had collaborated with Tascom Bank, NBU, which is the National Bank of Ukraine, BitInc as a technology partner, and DIA, the software for the people's phones, to create the Stellar Aid. And that itself was an SCBDC known as a synthetic CBDC. Stellar offered the rails. You have XLM, you have USDC moving within that. You have DIA offering the platform itself through Tascom Bank. And you have the NBU, National Bank of Ukraine, as the overseeing, saying, yeah, we give you the blessing. We're good. You're good to go.
Yeah.
And that's what gave that money value out in Ukraine from the US. So when people say US isn't adhering to regulation, USDC is clearly set up in the US. They have to adhere to something, the NYDFS. So there's stablecoin regulations already. There's regulations that they adhere to, just not federal regulation. There's state by state regulations. New York, Wyoming, California, and small hick towns that you never heard of adhere to them, because that's where they're doing all the testing with sandboxes in small dinky towns that you'd never heard of.
Yeah,
I live in one.
They're definitely, they are different. What ended up happening with that test run with that you just described with Stellar?
So they're going forward with that. They liked how that setup was, and they're going forward with that. So in March, I want to say March, when the one leg, whatever it was, goes live, I believe the NBU was going live with this setup or structure for the e-hryvnia as well. And I don't recall if that's going to be just domestically traded amongst themselves and used within Ukraine, or if that's going to be cross-border, say in Europe itself, or cross-border from Ukraine over the pond to Canada, US for the rest of us. I haven't gotten that far yet.
A lot of people have overlooked the fact that Ukraine has high aspirations to be a digital leader, a digital industry leader. I've posted it on X several times, different things that I've found, articles. No one seems to give it any attention, but I'm telling you guys, like we're bombarded with the news about the war and all of these types of things, and it's like, if you just look beyond that stuff and you start looking at the articles that they're writing about what they're doing with their technology, and it comes into the digital asset space, they're not messing around. And so the picture that's painted, one picture that's painted with everything being blown up and decimated, and then the other picture of what they're doing behind the scenes in terms of wanting to become a leader in this space, they don't reconcile to me. I do think that they're being used as a test country, big time and they were, obviously. You just
Don't forget about Iraq.
Insane. Also, right?
Don't forget about Iraq. Iraq is, a not talked about thing is what they're doing, and they're going digital dollar within their country. And if you want to, even if an outsider, you, me, and everybody else, if we wanted to invest in Iraq, we have to go through the old crypto protocol, KYC. And I read that in one of the articles that came out from Iraq, and I was like, oh, there it is. There's another one that's going live, and they're doing it very, very soon. Very, very soon with everything that's going on in Iraq.
Hey, what do you guys? I just want to ask a question. And we're about.
We got a few questions in the chat as well, Melissa.
A couple of what?
Oh, go ahead and ask your question. I just want to let you know there's a few questions in the chat.
Okay. We're about 20 minutes till the hour, so we'll be wrapping this up shortly here. But I just wondered what you thought about the fact that the United States has been seemingly held back due to lack of clarity and regulation, legislation, the standards, all of those types of things. And the rest of the world has been moving on with all of this. My simple mind says this has given the rest of the world that are farther down the road, in our smart in researching this, giving them an opportunity like us, to buy into these projects, to educate themselves around surrounding these projects, before the majority of people here in larger countries really jump on board with it, because we're waiting. So many people here, they think it's just a scam. All of it's dumb. It's never going to happen. But I'm just thinking this has been such an incredible opportunity for those of us that are paying attention, but for the rest of the world also, to get themselves in line with what the future is going to hold. I just wonder what your thoughts on that was, Mr. Mann.
Interesting question. A lot of people think that the U.S. is being held back in terms of their stifling innovation. I want to say the term we've all heard for Gary Gensler, stifling innovation. The U.S. is actually, they're like one of the leaders in terms of innovation. But as an established economy, it takes a while to dismantle what you have, because we have regulation we have to adhere to. And then in that, we have that transitionary regulation and then new regulation. So we have those processes we'd have to adhere to. Whereas if you go to an emerging economy, their regulation, like they have regulations too, mind you, but they don't have the infrastructure that we in the West do. So for them to say, yeah, this is our regulations, let's get new ones, tighter now, using digital, no problem, we can scale up quickly. If US was to drop that bomb and do that first, nobody else would have any, there'd be no competition. Nobody could lead anything. US would be the leader of all this, and we'd still be in the same situation we're in right now. So the fact that we're able to have the emerging economies able to scale up first and do what they need to do, US is purposefully held back for logistical reasons. If you notice, Gary Gensler is also a part of the FSB, Financial Stability Board. He's a member in there as well. And him to be called a regulator, and the way I look at it, there's hierarchy or levels of regulators. He's a regulator that regulates the you and me of the world, what we can and can't do. Then you have, beyond him, you have the bigger regulators that the banks adhere to. They don't give a crap about what the SEC has to say. They have governing bodies, and they're known as the ISSB, International Standards Settings Bodies, that these people adhere to. And who do these standards bodies adhere to and get their framework from? So to scale back down to our level of things again, if the US was to go live first, we'd lose. Like we would just lose. Like there'd be no such thing as a level playing field at all. Right. So the fact that it came out of the East first, out of the emerging markets, is where the money is flowing to now. If you notice, just like commodities now, when gold is too high, you buy low, you sell high. US is way too high. The emerging economies are at the perfect place, the Goldilocks zones, to buy and build, and that'll scale up. And that's going to bring that level playing field. But they're going to supersede us. Like if you ever watched the Black Panther, the Marvel movie,
that is a perfect example of how this is playing out. Perfect example. Yes.
Yeah, so you've seen that. Like that, the Black Panther, I swear, is a part of Africa just hidden away somewhere. Ghana, Nigeria, something. Like, well,
Mr. Man, you got the mask on
this. They're already capitalizing on the smart cities, the 15-minute cities, as people know, but the smart cities. India has Gift City. Like a lot of these places have smart cities already. Whether I agree with them or not is another thing. These things are going to happen whether I want them to or not. So like Rosie Rio says, either get on board or get smacked by that train. The east end of the world is ready to go. US is already as well, but they have to take their time with it because they have regulators and regulations deeper regulations to adhere to, because not only does US need to adhere to that, the rest of the world does too, in terms of the monetary system, because we all use SWIFT until we don't.
Right? Until we don't.
Wakanda forever.
I did want to get to a couple. Are you okay, Mr. Mann, for a couple of these questions here that I can throw up? Let's see. This is, well, JRB just says eliminating debt in the debt-based economy.
He had another one that
says, what event will catalyze the flip of that switch?
Oh man, I've been racking my mind with that. There's so many things. There is, like, looking at the timeline here, there's the full adoption of Basel 2025. In 2025, we have the re-evaluation of stable coins and DeFi again. There is the coexistence being let go of. There's the EDTA coming in for September. There's so many things I could just attribute this to. And when I tell my wife these things, she's like, is that what's going to make us rich? I'm like, no, lady. I'm like, no, wealthy is what we're going to be. We're going to be wealthy. But I honestly don't know what the flip of the switch thing is. Like, there's a lot of switches being flipped in the background. Each one of these things on this timeline is a little flip of that switch. But what the main flip is, I can't say. I can't say.
I feel you on that. Because really, there's so much things happening at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing has to be done, and then another and another, and then it really will be just a flip of the switch. But it's a slow like, I'm coming to turn the light on, before we get there. JRB also says, what if Ripple launches a decentralized bank digital currency backed by XRP?
Wow.
That's an interesting concept.
What a good thought. It's a decentralized bank.
That could be the future of banking.
Yeah.
A component.
And
really can.
And it says, oh, wait, this is not it. It said, it would be trustless and without party risk.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It would be, because Ripple had acquired a license out in Wyoming for Ripple's Market LLC, I believe it is, or what? WLLC. And there's been nothing happening with that. That license is still active, and they essentially could come out as a bank to be able to offer this now, because they have to have a way to sell this for institutions. I mean, the institutions, they can go to Uphold now and, claim some of that liquidity of XRP, but where else are they going to go? Like, they can go to, like, I don't know. I have a hard time seeing, like, the JP Morgans and the BlackRocks of the world being like, yep, let me just log on to Mexi and KYC and
Right.
like that. Like, they're going to go through entity that is trusted, because those entities have KYC in the back, so they know what's going on. A different platform than you and I are going to be using, clearly.
Exactly.
It's structured.
Yep.
And what that looks like is just, I don't know, it's still beyond me. But there's definitely going to be another entity, and it could be something along those lines there, as JRB is suggesting. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
To kind of piggyback on a little bit of that, Alan from the Staple Crew has said multiple times on his show that you're not going to want to sell your XRP, because we will become the bank. We will loan out our XRP to an institution or entities so that they can do their transactions that they need to do, and then we get paid on the back end of that like they used to.
Mm-hmm.
So in this decentralized bank, if these institutions are going to Ripple Bank, but we are the ones providing the Ripple liquidity to that, because at some point there wouldn't be there could be a liquidity issue to where the retail market, Main Street, you and I would be, okay, I'm willing to put my XRP like staking. It'd be just like staking, only we would be getting paid dividends in some other capacity or something like that. But
if I can just piggyback on what you said there, and one of the early documents of the BIS Prudential Treatment of Crypto, the IMF had written on there, and they are expecting that some people will hold XRP. I don't know who those people are, whether that's you and us, you and I, or somebody else out there will hold XRP once things are in play. And they state that we are aware of this. This was a footnote, so you have to be actively looking for this. We are aware this will exist, and there will be something set up for this. Should too many people hold XRP, they could be in control or have a minority control of critical infrastructure. I don't want to say XRP, but they could have control of critical infrastructure, and thus they'd have to be able to tap into that liquidity of whatever that project is. I don't want to just assume it's XRP and give people false hope.
Right.
Whatever that infrastructure is at that point.
Right.
Yeah, it's a possibility, and that's great that they're also seeing that as a very much real possibility. It's like, hey, these people might hold it like people hold gold and silver, right? That's going to happen. So how do we deal with that?
Most people have. I think that when I was listening to Alan today too, and he was saying, unfortunately, a lot of people probably will do this. When the price goes up and they'll sell it for $10-15, they'll get out before the true value really arrives, because it's taken so long. I mean, I haven't been in super long, but I was like you, Mr. Man. I didn't get the snapshot where everybody got the free songbird and this and that, all that. And frankly, I'm fine with that. I don't want to do any of that kind of stuff. I don't want to.
You're not missing anything right now, anyway.
I'm not missing anything. I've seen the turmoil over all those things, and I'm like, no, thank you. But the people that have held it for a super long time, longer than even myself, a lot of them, they get frustrated, and the price goes up to $10-15. They're going to be like, I'm out, and that solves the problem for, and then the higher the price goes, the less that people can buy. So, for people with big money, having a price go up to $15 or $20 or $100 or $1,000, no big whoop. But to a little guy, what you can buy right now for $100, when it gets up to $10, are you going to be able to buy that many coins? No, probably, not even close. Like, depending on what financial situation you're in. So, I mean, not financial advice, but man, spending your time in researching these things while you have a chance to get in on the ground floor of something, it's just so awesome. And I'm so thankful to people like you, Mr. Man, for sharing your hard-earned time and energy, and what a blessing it is that you are able to explain things to people in a way that they can understand, and you've chosen to do it in a fun way, in a Spider-Man mask. And I just love that. I think that's so fantastic. So yeah, anything else you want to touch? We got about 7 minutes left. Anything else you want to touch on before we call it a night?
There is one thing I want to say. We have that 2030 agenda, and in 2035, coincidentally, that's when the full migration of quantum computing is implemented at that point.
2035?
Yep. 2035, that's the full implementation of quantum computing. That's my final note.
So that gives us, let's see, 2025, end of 2024, 2025 peak. So 4 years, 2029 peak. You might have till 2023 or 2034 would be our last peak for crypto. if you're following cycles.
I'm going to just throw this out there, whether people agree or disagree. I picture 2024 as a good year of the dragon, where we'll see some increase. And then 2025 will be that year. And I believe in 2020, leading into 2026, maybe in a October, November, December sometime, that's when I feel like that's when we're going to, and this is just what I've been playing around with in my head. That's when we're going to get that huge market correction, and we might be able to snag some of our favorite cryptocurrencies at pennies on the
I
dollars.
get,
And then we have
I
that
can
2026, 2027 rebuilding, and then
yep.
2028 when that sterling comes in again for the EU, and hopefully the US dollar, CBDC, whatever it is, comes into force at that point. Because when those two conglomerates talk, the world listens. And then in 2020, 30, we're already shooting up at that point. 2020, 2035, lock in quantum computing done. So something along those lines. We're going to be. I was told that we're looking for what's known as a market maker symbol in the charts, and it looks like a W. We just kind of go, you're accumulating, and it goes down, which we've been in already. Then you go back up, and then you go down even further below that first drop of the W, and then you shoot up. So this is where you make your money. This is where you start to on that sell side and make some money again, and then you load up down here, and that's where you can take off at that point.
Yeah, you just, I'm out. 2 pumps to the chest and I'm gone, baby. Yeah, exactly. That's it.
I hope you guys find value in what I had to say and what I offer.
Absolutely, man.
Don't necessarily hold that as truth or as gospel. That's just my conceptualization of what I've learned and been able to accumulate over my time in the space here. Hope you guys found value in what I had to say. It's been a blessing chatting with you guys and answering.
It's been a blessing to have you here. Really, thank you so much for taking the time to stop by and share your knowledge, man. Real deal. Check him out, Mr. Man Crypto Talk on YouTube and on X. Where's the X? You got the X up? Let's pull the X. Let the people see. Oh, actually, I had one more question to ask. Okay, so you posted. I know I waited all night for it and I forgot. But Mr. Man, you posted on X. It was the 90-second one-word answer.
Danelle Dixon, the speed round.
Yeah, Danelle Dixon. Thank you. And so I'm watching this, right? And I just want to know if you did the same thing. So I'm watching it, and I was like, oh, one-word quiz. I'm in. Let's see what I got, right? So they're asking, and I'm like, 8. She's like 7. I'm like, come on, man, that's 8. You're being conservative there. She got to the Swift question. I was like 2, and she says 3. Were you about on par with all her responses on that? Because I was like, I'm seeing what she's seeing.
I felt what she was saying when she said Swift 3. Like that Swift won't be as big as it is now. I was like, oh, she did it. Honestly, it was like a basketball game. It was like, no.
It was. Oh, there was the last one. The last question she got asked. Do you see a crypto company or firm buying a bank or an insurance company? I was like, oh yeah, that's in. They're gonna do that. That'll probably be the first thing they do.
She dropped a 7 on that one. It was like, no way. So on the share screen, I have my Twitter up there. I'm not sure if you can show that.
Yeah, cool. Let's do that. Perfect.
So here's my
Check
Twitter.
Out.
You can see it? Yeah, Mr. Man.
Yeah, we can see it all. Yep.
Mr. Man, I posted it in the chat also.
Perfect. There it is, Mr. Man. Catch him on
notes.
Yep, catch him on the X, also known as Twitter. Yeah, it's great content, man. Keep doing it. Real deal. Keep doing it. And are you going to I know I already said last question. Are you going to post your timeline?
I did post that actually. I did post it.
You did? Okay.
Some of the new knowledge, yeah.
Okay, perfect. And that's on obviously on X, right? On one of your posts there.
It is on X, and I did post it on YouTube as well. I have that linked to linked in my Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Because I love a good map to follow, as I mentioned before. Crypto, follow the money map. I love that map too. Yeah. Great information, man. Melissa, thank you for having me co-host tonight. This was fire, absolute fire.
Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna play the outro, but I'll see you guys on the other side here. Okay.
I'll stick around for a hot minute.
All right.
Peace and love.